And welcome back to Sports Talk. Doug Miles, Don Henderson with you as we talk to you here on a Monday night here in mid-February. And glad to have our old buddy back with us. It's been a while since we chatted with him. He's a good friend of ours, good friend of the show, good radio man as well. You can hear him on WENG Radio and also online at WENGradio.com. Was based down here in our area, Sarasota and Bradenton and Englewood, Venice for a long time. Now based up in Boston, but he still does a local show. So we'll get his thoughts not only on the Tampa Bay sports, but the Boston scene as well. Rich Spitz, Spedaliere joining us. And Don, I know you and I haven't had a chance to talk to him in a while, so we wanted to get him on, and we're happy to have him.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Rich has spent a long time down here with us and was on the show many, many times when he was here down in Venice. So first of all, Rich, thank you very much for joining us once again. And you got a lot of activity going up there in Boston, and the investigation should end, according to the commissioner, sometime next week.
Oh, thanks, guys. It's great to be on with you guys as always. I really enjoy being on this show. It's kind of weird, guys. You know, I've been following this, and I don't really understand what's taken the extra 10 days or so. This, in my opinion, baseball's doing the Red Sox a disservice. Now, listen, the Red Sox broke the rules, and you shouldn't kowtow to them, but also, you know, they're trying to move forward and trying to get a new manager. They had to name Ron Renicky an interim manager because, quite frankly, they don't know the results of what's going to happen. And he was a bench coach here last year. So, you know, it's really, really strange, the timing of this. I know bits and pieces are coming out, but, you know, I'm not going to sit here and sympathize with the Red Sox, but certainly baseball could have done a little better on this.
Well, the commissioner spent a lot of time yesterday down at Bradenton, not Bradenton, I'm sorry, down at the Braves' new site, and talked about the ramifications if anybody throws any beanballs are going to be heavily fined or heavily suspended or something. He didn't give any details. He just said, you know, any of the players that take on other teams are going to get even with the Red Sox, or, for instance, the Orioles. That's not going to happen, and there's going to be dramatic action taken by the commissioner's office. And then secondly, as you just indicated, he spent a lot of time talking about the fact that they are taking another 8 or 10 or 12 days before they come out with the final results on the Red Sox, which I agree with you. I don't know why. I think they know everything they have to know.
I don't understand it, but, you know, I guess they're trying to be thorough. They've really taken a big hit from a public relations standpoint, but I look at this kind of in a different way. It has people talking about baseball when normally they wouldn't. So as much as it is a negative, I think in some ways for baseball it's a positive, guys.
Doug?
Don and I were just talking before we came on about, you just mentioned Ron Renicky and the interim tag. I guess not even officially interim tag at this point, because like you mentioned, and I'd heard this too, that pending the investigation, who knows what he may have been involved with as far as this goes. So if something comes up but he was involved, how much more of a mess can that be?
Yeah, I think the Red Sox were probably in contact with baseball, and I think maybe got a little wink, nod, it's okay to do that from them. And it'll be interesting to see. It seems, at least up these parts, and again, things are a little jaded because it is Boston, and, you know, the fans up here have a different way of seeing things, but it sounds like it might not be as severe as with the Astros, at least from a team standpoint, but it's hard for me to really fathom that Alex Cora doesn't get at least a year and a half. I mean, he's been part of 2 of these things. I think it's 2 full years myself, but if he gets only a year, just like AJ Hinch and Jeff Luhnow, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that, because you do it more than once. I think the punishment should be more severe.
The other thing, Renicky being named the interim manager, Doug and I were talking before we were on the air. In fact, I'm going to check too tomorrow when I go over to the Orioles camp and see. Does Renicky, does the interim mean full year? Does the interim mean they can make a change in the middle of the year? What is the length of time? Where does it stand with the interim?
Ownership has said it's for this year at least. And obviously that's pending the investigation if he's not named. and he's a very similar demeanor to Dusty Baker, who of course took over for the Astros. Kind of a fatherly figure. It's going to be a little protective. Definitely does things a little differently than Alex Cora did. Of course, last year there was a lot of controversy, and as it turned out, a lot of criticism for the way the Red Sox came off of their World Series year. The pitchers were really, really coddled in spring training and really didn't get into game shape until almost May in some cases. And a lot of people felt that was part of the reason why the Red Sox fell off to 84 wins last year after winning 108 the year before that. And, of course, they had a little extra advantage.
Rich Spitz Spedaliere joining us, host of Spitz on Sports. You can hear him on WENG Radio if you're here in Sarasota Brain area, or online if you're around the country, WENGradio.com with his sports show on early evenings. And again, talking about what may happen with the Red Sox, what has happened with the Astros. I always wonder, and I've been listening to a lot of sports talk radio. I'm sure you guys have as well. You mentioned Boston fans. Now, again, with the Patriots situation in the past and now with the Red Sox, I wonder how they feel about the Astros. I mean, are they rooting for the Astros to, get their title taken away? Or are they more lenient because they know something may happen to them with the Red Sox?
I think it's kind of a little bit of a wait and see, but they're more upset with the Red Sox. There seems to be the sports fan up here is starting to get a little sick and tired of getting caught with the hands in the cookie jar. And, the worm's about to turn, to be quite honest with you. I mean, does Tom Brady even come back? And I know we're going to hit that topic in a little bit. Do the Patriots fall off? I mean, the way everybody talked last year, they were 12-4, if people seem to forget. I know they went out in the first round of the playoffs. But do we see a more precipitous drop, especially if Brady leaves, depending on who they get? The Red Sox are not – some people up here think they might finish fourth in the division if Toronto takes the steps forward that they appear to be ready to take with a lot of their young talent and the pitching they picked up in the offseason. People think that only the Orioles will finish behind the Red Sox. They pretty much – for the most part, throwing their hands up and think that the Yankees and Tampa Bay are just that much ahead of them. I know they finished over 10, I want to say it was 13 games behind the Rays last year. And, with the Rays having as many injuries as they did last year, they're very optimistic in their camp that they're going to definitely take a step forward this year as well.
Everybody's pretty optimistic about it. You're exactly right there. If some of the players that were injured last year come back and do the kinds of things they thought they were going to do, hey, look what they did last. I mean, Cash came out of nowhere. The catcher, bullpen catcher, and now you got to consider him one of the better managers in baseball.
Well, he's part of the Terry Francona tree, and listen, Terry's a very, very good manager. He's done a tremendous job both here in Boston and in Cleveland, and for long terms. A lot of times guys' message gets kind of stale after several years, and Terry's still doing a heck of a job in Cleveland. He had them win over 90 games last year when they got off to just really a terrible start the first couple of months. They actually caught Minnesota at one point late in the season before the Twins pulled away. And Kevin Cash comes from the Francona tree, and, the Rays, listen, famously used the analytics. It's interesting. I was talking to Neil Solondz, who does the pre- and post-game for the radio network last week on my show. The Rays may be getting away from the openers. They were the ones that created the openers. They were the first ones to do it. Now everybody else seems to be doing it, and the Rays, if everybody stays healthy, will probably have 5 healthy starters and will be very limited with their use of openers this year. Kind of interesting how things come full circle.
Doug?
Yeah, you wonder, of course, the Rays have had a couple of great seasons, by Rays standards. They've kind of won a lot of games a couple of years ago, did not make the playoffs, and last year was still a pretty good season as well, but didn't do a lot in the offseason. They lost a couple of players as well. I know you keep up with that, Rich, on your show, doing a lot of Rays coverage. Again, in this market, you don't hear a lot about them in the offseason, so should Rays fans feel more optimistic, or what do they expect?
I think they should be very optimistic, but I get very nervous when the team I root for everybody's starting to write articles. I saw one, I'm not sure if it was Ken Rosenthal, but it was somebody pretty high up there predicting them to win 101 games this year. That's a lot of wins. That's the Yankees' actual over/under. I think the Yankees' over/under is now up to 102.5. But that's 101 and 61 for a club that's going to spend probably somewhere between $65 and $70 million on payroll. That would be a major accomplishment. And yet, you look at them. Tyler Glasnow missed half the year, one of their starting pitchers. Blake Snell was a shell of his former self when he won the Cy Young in 2018, just finished 5 and 7. The only guy that pitched all year was Charlie Morton. He finished third in the Cy Young voting and was nothing short of sensational. And quite frankly, when they signed him, I was like, what are they doing? This is so out of character for them. But once again, they're people upstairs. I guess I should learn to give them the benefit of the doubt, because they between the reclamation projects that they brought in, the bullpen is ever changing, and again they made a trade last week. Emilio Pagan going to San Diego. It's another one of their trade high. He had 20 saves last year, so they decided to get something for him, and I think they actually did very well in the trade, because they've got even though with injuries, you never want to say you have a surplus of pitching, but they certainly have a bunch of bullpen arms. A couple of guys, Alvarado in particular, didn't pitch well last year. The emergence of Yanni Chirinos and Ryan Yarbrough as starters. I mean, you look at the team. I mean, they're not going to hit a ton, but they're going to pitch and they're going to play defense. And especially towards the end of last year, the pitching got much better, and the defense was really good, really tight towards the end of the season. And they, with this Margot kid they picked up from San Diego, who is right up there with Kevin Kiermaier as far as runs saved in Major League Baseball. The gaps are going to be covered very well this year in the outfield for Tampa Bay.
Well, I'll tell you, everybody is sitting back, as you just mentioned. I was out in Vegas a couple of weeks ago and put in a couple of bets for a few people on the Yankees. They were 5-2 on the board.
I was one of them, Don. I'm still waiting for my ticket. I was one of those bets, Don. I'm still waiting for my ticket.
You got your ticket. I gave it to you. We went.
No, you didn't give it to me. Yeah, I haven't seen you since you've been back.
Gosh, okay. I thought I gave it to you when we were at breakfast.
No, we didn't have breakfast since you've been back yet.
Okay. Well, anyway,
I trust you. I trust you.
They were 5-2 on the board, and they were 100. You said 102. They were 101.5, I think. But everybody's pretty much walking out the door saying, "This is it. It's not going to be much of a race. It's going to be all Yankees." I sometimes you did get a little overconfident.
Yeah, and of course they already have an injury. James Paxton's going to miss probably half the season. He had to have surgery. It's incredible to me, guys. This happens every year, it seems like. You get to January and February, and all of a sudden somebody huge on a team comes up with a big injury from the off season, and it was something that they kind of babied and thought they could get through, and it turns out it's going to be major. And listen, they went out.
He's always hurt. I mean, he was, it's amazing. He's never healthy.
Yeah, and that was one of the things, with Seattle. That's why I don't think Seattle went hard and heavy after him when the Yankees came after him. And yeah, he's definitely been hurt, but Pete can definitely help the team. I mean, listen, he was the one guy in the playoffs last year that pitched extremely well. A 7 innings quality start against the Astros in Game 5 gave them. I think he only gave up a run and 3 or 4 hits in that 7 innings. So when he's on, he could be really good. The problem is, he's injured. Is Luis Severino going to come back to where he was? Obviously, CC Sabathia finally retired. You got Garrett Cole. You got Domingo Germán, who, of course, was suspended at the end of last year. So, the Yankees seem to have a pretty good rotation. But, again, there are some older parts to that rotation, and there's some parts coming off of injury. So there are a few questions for a team who, like you said, was 5-2 and 101 on the over-under. The team in L.A. got much better with the trade to getting Mookie Betts and also David Price. they're probably going to be waiting on the other side. And the Yankees-Dodgers World Series wouldn't be the worst thing for Major League Baseball. Those bring back some memories of the late 70s and early 80s for sure.
And certainly the early 50s and into the early end of the 40s, middle of the 50s. So you're exactly right there.
Yeah, you talk about David Price. There's a pitcher that all three of us have kind of followed since he was the number one pick for the Rays. I don't know how long it is now. Seems like he's been in the league forever. I guess he has been by baseball standards. But one of those pitchers that has a hot streak for a while, then has shown that he's not been that great in the postseason, although he had a couple of good postseason games. You look at his stats, though. He's got a lot of wins, a lot of strikeouts, and a Cy Young in there as well. But one of those pitchers that I guess teams just move on, right? I mean, I guess the Red Sox are going to pay part of that contract, right, of the Dodgers? Take some of that off the Dodgers?
They're going to pay half, I think.
Half, right? Yeah.
Yes, 48 of the $96 million. They've sent over $48 million to the Dodgers. Listen, he got a World's Championship here in Boston.
Right.
But overall, his tenure here was rocky and
disappointing.
Bad. Definitely. He's missed games with injuries from playing video games. Of course, that doesn't sit well with the fans up here. He's been very snarky with the media, and of course, when that happens, especially up here, the media will turn the fans against you instantly. So, I actually look for him to have a little bit of a bounce back year. First of all, he doesn't like pitching in the cold. He's not going to have that April, May for the most part. Obviously, the Dodgers will hit the road, but April and May in LA is like June, July, and August around here. So he's going to pitch mostly in warm weather.
I think the biggest thing, though, is going to be the fact that he's pitching in National League ballparks, especially Dodger Stadium. It's not a home run hitting ballpark to begin with. And I think some of those fly balls that he gave up in Fenway Park that went out are not going to go out at Dodger Stadium. I think that's going to be a big help for him.
Yeah, the night games, the ball doesn't travel nearly as much, and they play mostly night games out there. So I agree with you, Don. I think he's going to have a very good year. And listen, the Red Sox, the one thing that people don't like up here that was a very Tampa Bay Rays move to get rid of Mookie Betts 1 year before his contract is up. They probably, he won arbitration, was going to make, I think it's $27 million this year, and they didn't think they were going to sign him long term because he came at them and said 12 years, $420 million, which I think is crazy. Because again, it's going to be another contract where the end of the contract, the player's going to be 40 years old, and baseball has started to, at least the owners have started to back off a little bit from those gigantic contracts. I want to see how this one plays out because I think it go either way. He's a smallish guy. He gets into his 30s, mid-30s. I don't think he's nearly what contract is good when it gets into the back half of it. Not much. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Dodgers are the team that re-ups him. A lot of people think he might come back here, but he's not going to give a hometown discount. He made that very clear, and I think that's why, Chaim Bloom, who of course came from the Rays, now is the man in Boston at the GM position, or I guess director of baseball ops, if you want to call it that, decided to make the trade and try to get at least something for him.
Well, I think the one thing that you have to look at with the Rays, and that is, you look at their payroll. I think it's somewhere around about 82 to 85 million, something like that. And they keep winning and winning and winning. But the most important thing is that you look at the general managers around Major League Baseball now, and they come from the Rays because the Rays farm system is as good as any in Major League Baseball, not just the American League. And so the reward has gone to the general manager who put this all together, which is really, I think, a salute to Tampa.
Oh, no question. And, Houston poached the Rays. The Red Sox poached the Rays. I always say it on my show, if you can't beat them, steal them. And most of the teams that are up near the top have some sort of Tampa Bay Rays executive high up. And you guys are absolutely right. They've groomed them. A lot of these guys have been here many, many years. I guess the question up here in Boston is, they care what players make. They don't think salary is a big deal, whereas Red Sox ownership wants to get under that $208 million luxury tax level, and that hasn't played well here. So,
well, that's the difference between going from Tampa Bay to the Dodgers. It's a right opposite. The Dodgers don't care what they spend. Tampa Bay continues to work under that $80 million ceiling.
Yeah, actually, according to what I'm looking at online, they're right now right around $53 million. Now they'll pick up a little more as guys get re-upped, but yeah, they're doing it. They're doing more with less, and they're proving it can be done year after year. And I think Toronto is a team, and again, who's their manager? He's from Tampa. They're kind of going the same way. I think the Blue Jays are one of those teams that's going to make a little noise this year. They won't make the playoffs, but I think they'll win over 80 games.
A lot of people thought that last year, though, and it didn't happen.
Well, a lot of the kids were just, coming up. I mean, there were 19, 20, 21. Bichette, Guerrero Jr., they all have a year under their belt now. They went out and got Ryu from the Dodgers, the left-hand pitcher. They've been a little short of pitching. They went out and got some pitching in the off-season. Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of people thought that last year. I think they take the lead this year. I think they'll win in the low to mid 80s as far as games go, and I think they're going to be one of the teams. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. They might in the new format. If you have to finish seventh, they might be one of those teams. If baseball ends up going with that new format, that would actually be in the mix, because I think it's going to take that 7 team is going to win, in my opinion, somewhere between 83 and 86 games to get in.
Rich Spedaliere joining us. His show Spitz on Sports. You can hear on WENG Radio and WENGradio.com if you want to listen to it online. And you mentioned before, let's talk a little bit about what's going on football-wise up there, the Tom Brady saga. And you're more in tune with that, with the local media up there, Rich. He seems like he buys a house in Connecticut. Then I've heard he's going to go to Vegas. What's the latest?
Nobody knows. Anybody who says they know are lying, because nobody knows. I don't even think Tom knows. I know he wants to come back, okay? He talked to Joe Montana at the Super Bowl, and he would like to come back, but he would like a few more weapons. The wide receiving core here, let's be realistic, bottom 10 of the league. The tight ends were, the Gronkowski retirement really hit them hard. And I really thought that they thought that Gronkowski would, take a half year off and come back last part of the year. That didn't happen. I think the marriage between Brady and Belichick is somewhat on the outs. I think Bill wants to try to see what he can do with another quarterback, and there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks available. The question is, are they going to be a better option than the 43-year-old Brady?
Going to have a tough time convincing his owner of that.
And with the Patriots saying that they would pony up $30 million during Super Bowl week, if they don't re-sign him and he signs somewhere else for the same amount of money, it'll be interesting to see what the fan reaction is around here. Because when the report came out that the Patriots were willing to spend $30 million, I think a lot of people around here thought, all right, he's coming back then, because I don't think anybody's going to give him more than $30 million. I'm not so sure. I've been vacillating back and forth. I still think he ends up coming back. I really do. It's the best situation. Like I said, he talked to Joe Montana, and Joe Montana was open and honest during Super Bowl week when he did radio interviews. He didn't, he liked his time in Kansas City, but was, he looks back on it and thinks he might have retired if he had to do it over again, to be just one team for his entire career. So, that's Brady's idol giving him advice. So we'll see.
Well,
but
did he ever sell his house up there yet? I know it was on the market, and he and his wife bought a big place, I believe, out in California. Very high number, 25, 40 billion. I don't know. I think he bought one out there, but I don't know where he ever sold the one in Boston.
I don't think he's sold it yet, but it's been on the market it's been on the market since the regular season.
Right.
So, and Guerrero sold his as well. I think they're setting themselves up for after retirement, and I know Giselle wants him to retire sooner than later, and I think there's a little bit of a tug of war going on with that. But Brady made it very clear, when he talked on Super Bowl Sunday, basically said, "I'm going to be at the Super Bowl next year without putting on a blazer." So, he's going to play. Okay, I firmly believe he's going to play with someone. He's not retiring. The question is it going to be here? I don't think it's going to be the Raiders, because do you guys see the Raiders as a Super Bowl contender, even within the quarterback?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, so he wants to be somewhere where he has a shot. The Tennessee rumors are, I can't see him going there, especially since Derrick Henry will not be there if he goes there.
Well, the thing is, why in the world with somebody like Tom Brady, who's maybe 1 year, who knows how long he's going to last? He says 45. I don't necessarily agree with that.
So that's
but whatever.
2 more seasons.
Why would he ever go to a team that doesn't have a chance to win? So all you do is you look at the numbers. How many teams could afford him? How many teams can he go to where he could be a winner? And there aren't very many.
No, it really is a short list. You got Tennessee, you got Indianapolis, both out of the same division. After that, the Chargers. The Chargers have the pieces in place. They were, Phillip Rivers really handicapped them, and Rivers might end up in Tampa, which is another interesting conversation. But I don't think there are very many places. I think those 4, the Chargers, the Colts, the Texans, or the Patriots, I think it's going to end up being one of those 4.
We'll wrap it up, talk a little hockey the last couple of minutes of our time. And, of course, you've got the hottest team in hockey up where you live, Rich, with the Bruins. Of course, the Lightning are kind of quietly building some momentum now toward the playoffs. And, of course, they try and get back and eliminate the stink of losing to the Columbus Blue Jackets last year in the first round. They have that momentum going, or at least that motivation going. But what's the thought up there? Bruins fans getting excited, or they don't pay any attention to that till May?
Let me just jump in before you do that. The big win against the Rangers last night was a big 2-point. They won, 3-1, I think it was. And so I think right now the Lightning are 3 points behind, if I'm not mistaken, and they've won, 10 out of the last 11, I think, Doug. They've been on a heck of a run. And so what do you think? The Bruins are playing great hockey. They beat the Rangers were playing very, very well going into last night's game, and they buried them.
Well, the Bruins are playing well, but the Lightning are just about as hot as you can get. Second 10-game winning streak of the season, looking to make it 11 tonight in Colorado as we record this.
Ties the record.
Correct. And the Bruins, I think the Bruins fans I know the media feels the Lightning are a better team, and they are a better equipped team this year. They've got much more edge to them. Some of the guys they picked up in the offseason have given them a little more toughness, which they definitely lack. And Andre Vasilevsky has started to stand on his head again, which is a good sign for Tampa Bay. Now, the one thing I would do if I were the Lightning, about 30 games left, I would really back off on Vasilevsky's load. I thought last year in the playoffs he looked tired. And a lot of that was them trying to get him to win the Vezina Trophy and them trying to get the wins record. This year they don't care about any of that. They don't care if they're even the 2 seed in their own division. They just want to get in the playoffs and make their damage and do their damage there. And I think they've got a good focus, and they're going to be a very dangerous team come April, May, and June. The Bruins will, too. I just don't think the Bruins have enough firepower in lines 1 through 4. I mean, their first line is as good as any. Pasternak is going to eclipse 50 goals, maybe even 60. But the drop-off is pretty precipitous after that line. And that's been a problem for them for several years.
Doug?
Well, Rich, again, great talking to you again. I'm getting a little echo on your phone line there, so maybe the phone cell people are giving us a message here. But always great to chat. We will not wait as long till we talk to you again. We'll do something early baseball season as you're available. But, again, your show is on 5 o'clock, right, on WENG Radio, 5 o'clock Eastern?
Yeah, 5 o'clock Eastern, Monday and Thursday. We kind of review the weekend on Mondays and preview the weekend on Thursday. So, 5 to 6 on Suncoast Live on WENG.
Terrific.
Well, that'll wrap it up. And, Don, you and I are going to see the Red Sox next Sunday, God willing, against the Orioles, right? They open the spring season here in Sarasota against Boston.
There it is, Spitz Stadium at 1:30 game on Sunday, and so we'll have a chance to see them firsthand. And also, between now and then, we'll have a little bit of chance to do some work on the Orioles, who are really under a massive reconstruction. So we'll get a chance to see a lot of different things, and be interested to see the Red Sox, whether the ruling has come down by Sunday or whether it hasn't, and what the Orioles are doing. So we got a lot on the plate this weekend.
Rich, thank you once again, and, of course, give our best to your wife, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys, for having me on, as always.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Take care.